Welcome back everybody to another part of our Flow application, which will be our WhatsApp clone. For this part, we will basically just be spending some time on building out the UI that we will be connecting to our database and to our actional logic, as well as our cloud functions when in part 3 and part 4, and also perhaps part 5, depending on how long we take in part 3 and 4. Now, this will include basically all of the UI that we will be building throughout the application, except perhaps for updates and communities for now. We'll start dealing that later on, perhaps in the part 6 or part 7 of this application. For now, let's start with just building out our base UI. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with our chat home screen, right? And we will be building out our full own app bar as well as our own nav bar. Now, that does mean that we also don't want safe area enabled. So let's make sure that we untick that safe area, and then we can start building out our widget tree. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab this column and we're going to give everything an item spacing of 10, right? And inside of this column, we are going to have 3 things. We're going to have an app bar. Then we need to have a list view where we can see all of our chats. And then we also need a navigation bar. Right now, for our list view, we can grab that and we can say that this needs to be expanded all the way, just like that. Now, finally, we're also going to have a floating action button, and this floating action button is going to be for us to navigate to our users. So I can click on Fab, and we will be changing where this Fab is sitting, and we can perhaps say that it needs to be. So if you grab the Fab and you pull it up, right? Okay, it doesn't want to. They used to be able to move that around, but now it seems you're not able to anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this, right? I'm going to say that it needs to have an x of 1, and then let's say about 0.75 is right. Yeah. So we'll maybe do a 7.5 or even maybe just a 7.8. All right. Now for our nav bar, what we want to do is we want to keep the height to be 100, but we want to expand this all the way when it comes to the width. And I'm also going to say that this needs to remain a primary background color. What I can do is I can maybe perhaps give it an elevation of 2 and maybe a box shadow color of, let's say, that, and let's move it more towards a green, right? So you might not be able to see it as much now. We can give it a spread of 2, and there we go. So it doesn't look like much now, but once we're in our application, then we'll very much see this little spread there. Once we can see it, then we'll decide whether we want to keep it that way or change it. Now, next, for the floating action button, something that I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to change this color to be set to my Fab button, right? This is a color that I chose inside of my color code when I set up my theming. And so I'm also going to change this icon. And this icon, I'm going to set this to be primary background. And let's make this a chat bubble like that. And we can keep the size of it as 24. Now, next will be our app bar. And for this one, I am not going to set any height. I don't want a specific height. I want it to be able to expand as per what goes in it. Now, I'm also going to just set this to be of the app bar color. And it doesn't need a border color at all. I just do want to give it an elevation of 4. Perfect. And that is it for the main parts, right? Now we can start building out what needs to be inside of our navigation bar. Now, if we think about a navigation bar, it's normally inside of a row, and therefore the first item that I'm going to start here or add in here will be a row. Now, this row is not going to have much customization. This is perfectly fine just as it is. The only thing that I do want to give it is padding, and what I'm going to do is I am going to give it a 30 padding at the bottom, right? Then a 10 padding on the left, a 10 padding at the top, and a 10 padding on the right. Now, the reason why I'm giving it a 30 padding at the bottom is so that if we have, let's say, our own little our device's navigation menu here at the bottom, then that will prevent it from showing. So let's say if I want to say display device, so you see this curve factor here. This cuts out that curve factor if we tend to say, let's say we have a Galaxy Samsung Note. So normally here at the bottom, you will now have like your back button, home button, and then all of your applications icon right there. So this little factoring of 30, just make sure that all of that is in its space. All right. Now we can start really building out on this, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in our row, right? So inside of this row, we're going to add in a column, and inside of the column, we can perhaps add a row so that we can expand it perhaps all the way. Yeah. Right, so we're going to add, well, it's not really needed for that. All we need to do though, because we want to keep it center, we will be putting it inside of a row here, and that would be our little container with a chat notification stack. Now this chat notification stack is going to be a custom, or not a custom code, but a different component that we will then just import in here, right? And then we also need to have text. Now this text is just going to say that we are inside of our chat. Now for the container that will be holding our chat notification bubble will have no width and no height. It will though have a full color of a selected background, because we are on the chat home, and therefore it will look something like this. We will just place a temporary, let's say, container in there that will make empty, and yeah, so we can maybe just make it 50 and 50, right? Oops, right, 50, just like that. And well, it will never be that big, so let's just make it 40. That looks better. So now this container, what we want to do is we want to give it some border radius. And I'm actually just going to do this, and I'm going to say 25, right? Now, this container width though, I'm going to say it's going to have 20 padding on the left, and let's say 20 padding on the right, and it will eventually look something like that. Perfect. And then this will read chats, just like that. Now I do though want to come and say that this will probably only be 12 when it comes to the size, but I am going to make it extra bold so it's nice and visible. And now we can start building out the rest of our items. For that, I am going to add in another row or another column. I can just actually duplicate these, duplicate. Before I duplicate that one, I'm first going to just build out this one, except this one is not going to have a container with a selection color. It would just have a little updates nav icon, right? because we might eventually have our navigation. So if our users brought out a new you know, update, then we might want to see that a notification to say that there's new updates, although I probably won't be handling that inside of this application. And therefore what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. This will obviously be made center, and what I'm going to do is let's just do this. I'm going to add in our icon like that and that. Now I can wrap this widget in a container. Why? Because I want to set this to have a 40 and 40. Now I do want to expand all of them. So all of them will have an expansion. If we look at this one, I also want this row to always center align, right? Now this one is also going to expand all the way. And there we start building out our things. Now I'm going to say my updates need to have, let's say, a camera icon, right? Because it's an update. So let's select this one. Why? Because we're not selected. And we can maybe make our icon color to be primary text, just like that. Perfect. All right. We can now duplicate this value. So, except this will obviously say updates like that. And then we can duplicate and duplicate just like that. All right. And then we can finally start building out our things. Now, this one is again going to have a different little icon value, and that would be because something similar to what will happen with chat is it will show you how many missed calls you have or calls you have that you haven't seen yet. So it's like showing you, listen, your attention is required there, or there's something that you need to see. To do that, we are going to have to create some components. So let's start with our components for the chat notifications, right? So inside of in our components for the structure, yeah, we can add a component, and we will call this one chats notifications stack, like that. And we can create the component. We are going to put in a stack itself like this, and this stack is essentially going to be reading unread chats, right? And it's going to be checking that from our authenticated user record reference. Yeah. Now, for our badge, we want to constantly check if a number of items is greater than a specific number, and we will get to that. So I'm going to say container, right, inside of the stack, and this container is going to have our 40 and 40. It's going to be transparent, so unset, and child alignment can be in the center. Now within it, we're going to add our badge. Right, let's actually just duplicate this one first before we add a badge. So now we can add our badge in here. So let's just search for it. There we go. Right, so we have our badge, and inside of it, we want to add in an icon like that. Perfect. And this icon, I'm going to say, is going to have a primary text value. It's going to be icon size 20, and it's going to be chat, let's say outline, that one. Perfect. I can copy this one and just come and paste it in here too, and that should suffice. Perfect, yes, 100%. Now, for the badge part, we also need to make some changes here, right? And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the font size for our text needs to be 9. It can remain white. I am though going to say it needs to be medium. The badge color can be tertiary. The elevation is fine, although I want to give a different padding amounts of 4, 4, and 4. So now if we look at it, it will look like this, and it will have a little badge there to say 1, right? Also, the alignment is fine. Position start needs to be end, and that is it. We'll come to connect this shortly. Right. All we need to do is we can maybe just, yeah, well, no, let's cancel that. We will connect this now. All right. So inside of this container, we are going to add our little custom component now, which will be the chat notifications stack, right? And then give out 20 padding like that. And there we go. This is essentially what it would look like if we are on our chat screen and we are viewing it. Great stuff. Now let's start building out the rest of our icons. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to build out our call notifications one that needs to go in here. And therefore what I'm going to do is let's just remove that. I'm going to put it in a stack here. Right, just like that. This one doesn't though, again, need a width or a height. And then inside of the stack, I'm going to add in a container, which will then have the 40 and the 40. We can remove the color, and we can add in a badge for this one. And then the icon. Now it's going to have similar values, so it's going to be 9. We're going to make this medium. We can set it to be tertiary, and let's change all of that to be 4, 4, and 4, just like that. And then let's not forget that this icon needs to be primary text, and we can make it 20. For the icon itself, I am going to say that this needs to be the call outline. Like that. Perfect. Okay. Right, so now I can just duplicate this, but copy that value, delete the badge, and paste our icon, right? So now we also have our icon if we are not selected. Let's make sure that this was set to 40. It was indeed set to 40. We can now just come and change our communities. So for the communities nav, I'm going to just keep this icon like this. I'm just going to say community. Let's see. Let's say group. There we go. And again, we can make it to be an outline. And then updates, I am happy. Let's change this and say communities. Like that, and then calls. Perfect. I'm happy with that, although this badge, it seems to be far out there. Let's just make sure width and height is correct. And the badge icon though, elevation is 4. Okay, I don't know why that badge is struggling so much, but what we're going to do is we are going to wrap or convert to a component, and what we will call this component is the calls notification nav, like that. Create component. And there we go. Now we could have just have duplicated this other one. So I think that actually might just be better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it because this one seems to be having an issue. I'm not too sure why. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to delete this component and we're going to click on this one. We're going to say duplicate component. We can come in here and we can call this call notifications nav, like that. Right, and then all we need to do is change our icons, which for this one will be call outline, and then copy, delete, and paste, just like that. And there it looks correct. So we can go back to our chat home, and in here we can go to our component section, and we can find this call notifications nav in there. Great stuff. And we are all set up with our navbar. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to change this almost into a, I don't want to really change it into a component. What I'll do is I'm going to save it as a reusable template, right? So if you look up here, let me just rename this. I'm going to say this is the navbar. Okay, it won't allow it because I have components in here, so I won't be able to make a reusable component, but we'll just copy it out. That's fine. Okay, now for the app bar, right? Let's call this the app bar as such, and let's start building it out. Let me just get to the proper note here. There we go. Right. Now, the first thing that we're going to add inside of the app bar is going to be a column, right? And this column, we're going to say we're going to have a start spacing of 40. Now, again, the start spacing is very similar to what we did with this row when we gave it the padding here at the bottom to say, you know, the padding needs to be 30. Now, we're going to do something very similar for the column here, which is just now a start spacing of 40, which means that, let's say now, let's start adding our first item, which will be a row with some text in it, and then another row, like that. All right, now this row I am going to push, so it's starting at both sides, and then I'm going to add a text value to have a padding of 10. And we are going to make it semi-bold. The font size can be 20, and we're going to say primary text to be tertiary. So now it will say hello world over there, and for me I'm going to call this What's Flow. Right, that's our application name. And then finally our row here on the side, this will have 2 icon buttons in them. So there's one icon button. I do want to come back here, and I'm going to say the in spacing needs to be 10. So there's some space between this icon button and the side there. And then finally, we do not want to set any color to that, except for our icon, which is going to be of a more value. Primary text is fine, as well as what our icon size is, right? We can duplicate it, and then this one we're going to set this to be camera outline, so we can grab this little camera icon there. Perfect. So if you click there, then you will automatically create a new update, or you can click on more, where we will have our menu or our settings. So now you can see that we have the space here because we specified this column. The start spacing needs to be 40. So let's again say display device, right? Okay, we are displaying a device. Let's say we want to have an iPhone there. Let's say Samsung Galaxy S20. So there you can see, we can see all of our values and everything remains in a safe space. Let's say the OnePlus Pro, there we can see again, there's the little camera and we can see our values. Right, everything is looking great and we can now continue. Now, the next thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to build out a column, right, inside of this app bar, which is going to hold both our text or our search field. I'm just going to add basic search functionality to this search field. I'm not going to include the AI. That will be things that are added into our or the advanced application that I will be selling. For this, we are just going to be creating our incoming call box and then also setting that as a component. But for now, I do want to just say on this column, we are going to do a query, right? So let's already do that query since we are busy here. And that query is going to be querying the collection, user call management. It's going to be a single document, right? Because actually, sorry, we're going to do a document from reference, user call management, and we're going to do it from authenticated user, this user call management, right? And we can confirm it. Confirm. Perfect. And we can now come inside of this and we can say we're going to add a row. And this row is going to have a start spacing of 10 and an end spacing of 10. And from here, we are going to build out what our incoming call box should look like. So our incoming call box will essentially just be a new component. Well, we can build it out inside of this row and then we'll just change it into a component. Right, so let's start in here. For this incoming call box, we're going to add in a container. Whoops. Container. And this container is not going to have any width or height, but it is going to have a full color of incoming call. I'm also going to give it a border radius of 20, like that. And then that is good, right? We're now going to put in a column here. And then inside of this column, we're going to put a row like that. Now, this column is going to do a document from reference, calls, and it's going to get it from this user call document, the active call reference. Confirm. Then finally, this row, we can say that that needs to have a value, so a document from reference. It's going to be users, and we're going to get that from the calls document. We can do then an if and then statement. Why? Because, well, we can actually just return user A, right? Because we're not initiating the call. So we also know that the person initiating the call will then be user A. So we can confirm. Perfect. All right. Now, from here, we can start adding some text. Oh, well, first add a container because we also want to get that person's profile picture. And I'm going to say 45, like that. I can keep the secondary background, and I am going to set this container then to have a background image of network. It can be cached, and we're going to set this user's document photo URL. Now, what if the person never set a profile picture, right? Then we want to show an icon with a person like that, and we can make it primary text, and perhaps make this icon size to be 40, like that. Now we will set conditional visibility and we'll say single condition. Users document photo URL is not set. Confirm. So if the photo URL is not set, then we're going to view this icon. Now finally, we're also going to need to add in a column, because this column is going to contain some text as well as incoming call, whether it's a video call or a voice call, right? So we're first going to add our first little text here, right? The one thing about this row is it can actually go all the way, but we'll push it out on the next one. So let's say before we wrap this column, we want to wrap this widget in a row, and this row can go all the way. Let's grab this container, say width to be infinite. It's weird. Let's go again on that. Okay, it doesn't want to select infinite. All right, but since we will be changing this into a reusable component, it will update as such. All right, so let's have a look here. I want to say this item spacing here for this row needs to be, oops, let's see, not this one, but this one. There we go. Item spacing needs to be 5. And now we can start with our text here. And the first text item is going to have a font size of 16, right? So it's nice and big. We can make it to be normal. We don't need that to be that big or bold. And then we can set this to be this user's document display name, right? And then next we're going to put in a stack. Oh, and don't forget this column's alignment needs to be to the left. We can also, no, it's no need for any padding there. What we can do is say some text and then duplicate it. Now this is going to say incoming video call, right? Oops. Let's do this. Sorry, I just want to get it here where I now made a mistake on my notes side. There we go. Incoming video call, and then finally incoming voice call, like that. Perfect. Now this incoming video call is only going to be visible if our calls document has user call management document says it is a video call request. Else, copy variable if it's a voice call. So if we paste it here, then we can just say apply the opposite position. So incoming voice call will only be visible if it is not a video call request. Else we're going to say incoming video call. Perfect. And now finally, for the final part, we can add a row, right? So we can close this column. There we have our container. We can also close this row. Let's close this row. And then we're going to add in another row inside of this column. And this row is going to have 2 buttons in there. So button and button. And I am going to give them a spacing of 5 on the row. It's going to be in the middle. And then we can start changing our actual buttons here. Now, the first button is going to say decline, right? And then for its color value, I'm going to give it a full color of red, but it's going to be this red, right? So it's nice and big. I'm going to keep the height the same. I do want to change the border radius to be 25. We can leave the button padding. I just want to change the font size to be 16. And we can actually just delete this one, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this one. This one will just now say answer, right? Because we need to answer our call. And then I'm going to give it its own unique green value of that. Perfect. Now I am happy with that. I do believe that I did set padding there. I did not though come in here. Wait, hold on. So I can remove this widget, that column over there. I do want to give item spacing of 20. We can give a start spacing of 20 and an end spacing of 20, right? And then of course our padding 10 and 10, just like that. Now this will expand as soon as I put this inside of a component. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to say convert to a reusable custom component, and I'm going to call this the incoming call box, like that. Let's create the component. Ooh. And in this column we can do that, right? So there we can see now it's expanded nicely. So in our chat homepage, where we see this, right, we can now say that, and this guy can expand it, and there we go. It looks wonderful, right? Now if we have a look back at our chat homepage, now we are going to add in a text field inside of the same column. The reason why we'll be adding it is because if we have an incoming call, then we don't want to see our search box. So I'm going to say a row, right? And now inside of this row, I'm going to have a container like this. And this container is going to be expanded all the way. I don't want any width and I don't want any height. The full color will be search box. So I've already created my color for search box, and the border color can be tertiary. Now I'm going to give it a border radius of 25 and then the border width of 2. Great. Now inside of this container, I'm going to put in another row, and then comes the fun part. The fun part is the start spacing is 10 and 10, and then we're going to go and create or get a loading animation. Now I already have one prepared. You can select whichever one you want, or you can just replace it with an icon. For me, I'm going to use a Loti because essentially the advanced application has AI feature. So I have a little Loti animation, which is animation that's on loop that looks like a little AI, right? So I'm going to say asset. I'm going to quickly go to Loti files.com. Now if you don't know how to make your own, Loti animation has brilliant or a lot of different animations. So you can say AI and search, and once you say that, it will give you a bunch of little things such as AI or AI animations. So there you can say, see, right? Or go Meta AI. So there you can see you've got a little bot here. It says hi, there's this. There's a bunch of animations. You can download them, customize them slightly on their colors, and then download. Now I already have one, so if I go to my dashboard here and I grab this little animation, then I can say download, right? Now it's downloaded. I can come back in here and I can upload my file, go to my downloads and grab that animation. It's all done. There we go. I've got my little man going there. Right, now that I have my Lottie animation in, I also want to have a text field, right? And then also an icon button, like this. Perfect. Now let's start with our text field. Our text field is gonna have, max lines of 1. We don't want to have more than 1 max line. Our initial value is correct, although the text color, I am going to make that to be alternate. It can be normal, no need for it to be medium. And then finally, I don't want any label text, but I do want to have some hint text. Now my hint text is going to be ask Flow AI or search chats, right? And the search is going to be a font size of 12 and 500 medium is fine. I don't want any input border, so that can be none. We will have an update page on text change. I'm going to remove autofocus, and then the keyboard can be text. Capitalization can be none. Submit type can be none. I do want to put the update delay as 100, no need for 2000, and that is ready. And now we can get started on our icon button. Now for my icon button, I'm going to remove the full color, but my border color I'm going to set as tertiary as such. Border width of 1 is fine, and then we can set my icon color to be tertiary. Icon size is fine, and I want to say search, but search off like that. Perfect. Right. Now, one thing about this icon button, it's going to have a conditional visibility of single condition, widget state, text field, and that is going to be set and not empty. Confirm. So if the text field contains a value, then I'm going to see this little icon button. Now this icon button is just going to have an action there of clear text field for now. Eventually it's also going to have a value to clear the search results so that you don't see that. It will also then update the page state so we don't see any of the search results. Okay, great. Now for this color, we don't really need to, but I'm still going to do it. Right, and that is set some spacing of 5 and a start spacing of 10. It will just drop it slightly down. Perfect. All right. Now I do want to just set some final in spacing here also of 10. Right, because we don't want our values to be too close there. So I'm just going to do that. Although what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do 10 and 10. Right, and I can remove that in spacing and then it will look like that. Perfect. Now it is going to look like a lot because now we are pulling in information and we are not closing it off, right? So we are going to constantly see this. So it might look rugged or heavy, but it's actually perfectly fine. Okay. Now for our list view. Oh, this is one thing also for our row here. We are going to set conditional visibility of incoming call is true. So condition, this user call management document, incoming is true. We can copy that that variable, we can come to our second row, we can paste it, and this time we can say it's apply the opposite statement. So now if you don't want to see this value so that it looks a little better, you just untick show in UI builder. So now it looks like this. Very nice. All right, let's start building on our list view, right? Because we need to see our chats. Now, I'm not necessarily gonna already build this, or well, I can connect it so long to the database, but since I haven't really gone to build out the full functionality for the chats and I haven't added enough fields, it will be stupid to try and do that now. I first want to work on our actual application or the UI of it, right? So the first thing that we can do is we can say list of documents, so chats, list of documents, and then add a filter here, and our filter will be users, right? Array contains, and then authenticated user record reference. Confirm. We'll come to do the ordering by shortly once we've added the other fields, and that is essentially all that we need for now. Now that we have that, we can do another query here, and we're going to say container, right? And I don't want it to have any color. I can expand it, but the height will be none. Then inside of this container, I want to add in a row, and this row is gonna have an item spacing of 8, a start and end spacing of 15, like that. And then we can start building out. Now, the first thing that I want to put in here is a container. And this container is going to be circular. It's going to be 35. It's going to have a border color of tertiary, a border width of 2, and no need for an elevation. I think that's pretty decent. I am though going to say background image to be network, and we will come and set that shortly. It's also going to have an icon, right? So should the user not have a profile, then we can set it. So let's say person, right? Perfect. And we can make that primary text. That's looking good. All right. Finally, what we also need to do is I want to wrap this widget in a stack, right? And I'm going to duplicate it because this might be a group, and then, so let's say group here, like that. So if it is a group, and then it's going to have a group image or whatever it was that you displayed. All right, perfect. So now we are going to have to add in a column, right, in this row. Now, this column is going to hold our name, our last message, our last message send time, as well as our read receipts, right? So to do that, I'm going to add in 2 rows inside of this column. And the first row is going to be for our display name. Now we can expand this all the way. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one that I tried to expand there. Just give me a second. So on our column, we can expand it all the way, so it takes up the full space. And then we can start adding to our row. Now, the first one is gonna be our text field, right? Now, this text field is either gonna show the name or the group, like that. So it's either the name or it's the group. Let's do this. And then finally, it's also going to show us our last message send time. I do want to put this at the very bottom like that. It's going to be separated, although this text is going to be 9 and it can be of secondary text. And that will be the message send time. We can actually keep this. We can maybe make that to be alternate like that. And then we have the name or the group name. Yeah. We will come to connect this shortly. Then we're going to add in another row. Now this row is going to have a similar outcome. This row is also going to be all the way through, but it's going to have a text field. And this text field is going to be expanding the entire value, right? Like this. I am going to set or add in a stack in here, and the stack is going to contain our icons for whether the message has been received, sent, or the amount of messages that we've received. So to do that, I'm going to say icon. And I can maybe add here, let's say check. No, let's say done. There we go. All right. So the first one is going to be just a single one. We can duplicate it. This time it would be done, but both of them. And then finally, we can add a little badge, right? Like this. Now I'm going to make this font size to be like 1, and we can make it transparent because we don't really care about this badge at all. Make the padding 0, 0, 0, and 0. There we go. Also, this font size or the text color can also be transparent, like that. And then we can add in a little container that we will put circular. We can maybe say 20 like that. It will have a text item, and let's say for now it will have a default value of 1, and its alignment will be in the center, right? We can make it nice and extra bold or extra bold like that. We can keep it as 1. Let's go to our container, and I'm going to say this full color to be tertiary. Right, so that will display the amount of messages that we've received, the new messages. For the text itself, this will be the last message, send text. So let's do this. Let's say last message sent, just like that, but the font size will be 12. Here we go. We can even do 12 here, and then this last message sent text will be 10 or an 11. Yeah. All right, that's looking good. Let's say now, right? Okay, I am happy with all of this. And we can now start building out the rest of our things. Now, something that we're going to have to do from this screen is we're going to have to be able to access our users, right? So let's go to create a new one. So the core pages, I am going to create a new folder in here, right? And this folder is going to be called chats. So this chat home can go inside of that chats folder. We're going to create a new folder, which is called users. Create folder. And then inside of this, we need to have both an auth profile, we're going to have a public profile, and we're going to have a contacts page. So let's create our pages so long. So we're going to have an auth profile like that. We're going to have another page, which is going to be called the contacts page, which is just for now, it's going to be all users. If you're interested and you want to know how you can read contacts, check and whether that contact has an account with Firebase or with which backend you use, please do reach out to me, and then I can provide you or have discuss about providing you with the custom cloud functions and things that you will require in order to achieve that outcome. Now, with that said, that is a functionality that does come with the full application that I'm building, so the advanced application, and you are more than welcome to get that from me. All right. So now for our contacts page, right, which is the next item that we will be building. So let's go to our contacts page. Right. I am going to remove the safe area value. And then I am going to add in a container. Well, it's no need to really add in a container, but yeah, all I need to do is have a column. So I have my column ready, and then we can start with our app bar. Now our app bar is going to be very similar, and so I'm firstly going to go to our chat homepage, right? And I'm going to grab this app bar. I'm going to copy the entire app bar, come to the contacts page, and paste it, right? The only difference is here it will say contacts, and instead of being this bright green, it is going to be white, or even alternate. Now let's say it's going to be white, so primary text, and this text itself is going to be wrapped inside of a row, and it's going to have an icon button. So I'm just going to copy this icon button, copy, I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to put it at the very top, right? But it's going to say back like this. There we go, back. And we can also, we don't need to give any spacing, but I will still, so I'm going to give it about 5 spacing, and it will have an action of navigate back like that. So now we have our contacts. We can remove this row, so we can delete that one, and all we need is this. Now this text field is going to have a different hint. This text field is going to have AskFlow AI or search contacts like that. Perfect. So now we have our entire field here set. Now we're not going to have a nav bar inside of this one, and all we now need to do is build out our screen. So the first item that we're going to have here is a container, which we can say the new group container. We can call it the new group container like that. And then we can add or expand this all the way. We can remove the full color, and we can remove the height. Inside of it, I'm going to add a row, and this row is going to have a big container or a larger container like this. We're going to say that it needs to be circular, and diameter can be 50. We're going to say the full color to be tertiary, border color to be tertiary. I can make the border, I don't know why I want to do that, but so it's not necessary to change border width. I do, however, want to add in an icon like this. Make it primary background. Maybe make that 30 like this. And then we can say person add or group group like this. All right. Now for our row, we want to give an item spacing of 10, and then maybe a start spacing of 10 and end spacing of 10. And then inside of it, I'm going to add new text, which is going to say new group. Just like that. I can though make the text semi-bold like this, and then I can keep the rest the same. Now what I'm going to do is I am just going to duplicate this entire one. So I'm going to duplicate it like this. So let's go back to our column here at the very top, right? Because our column needs to have some item spacing, and let's say a start spacing of 20. There we go. So now if we say display device, right, and we maybe grab an iPhone 13 there, then we can see there's some nice space there. Might even be too much, so I'm going to remove the start spacing. That's not needed. Galaxy 20 Ultra, looking good. All right, so there's enough space everywhere. All right. Now I want to also, inside of this new, or this item here, which is going to say new contact, therefore let's say maybe icon, yeah, okay. Well, I'm actually going to remove this because I'm not going to be adding this functionality for this one. This is part of the advanced application and not this one. We'll just have the option for new group, and then we'll have a text value here that says contacts. My contacts. Like that, and we can align it all the way to the left. Make it nice and big. So let's say 700 bold. Like that. And make that 80. Now, I do want to wrap this widget actually inside of its own column, right? Because I'm essentially going to have a list view in here. And this one will be for just displaying everything. And if you search, there will be another list view that will be displayed. So let's grab a list view. And this list view is going to query collection, users, list of documents, and we can exclude the current user. Right, and we can order by. Display name is decreasing. Let's do that. Confirm. Confirm. Perfect. And then we can finally start building out our users. Now, to build out our users, we're going to say add a container. We can remove the width and the height from it. You can set the spacing to be 10 and 10. Like this. And then we can add in a row. There we go. Now I'm going to take this container and I'm going to remove the background from it. It won't be needed. For the my contact spot, right, we want to give an item spacing of 10. So let's go to our list view. And we're going to say item spacing 10. Perfect. We can also say start spacing needs to be 10 and end spacing needs to be, let's say, 40 or 50. Perfect. All right. Now I can expand this all the way. Although it's not needed, it is probably set to shrink wrap. It is, and it won't allow me to expand it. That's fine. All right. Now inside of the row, the first item that we're going to need is a container, right? So that we can display our user's profile image. So we can say our container needs to be a diameter of 50, so it's nice and big. We can also say a border color of tertiary and make this border width to be 2, like that. And then we can add in an icon like this. This icon will be of alternate. It will be person. And we can set this to be maybe 45, like that. Right. Now, this icon is only going to be visible, it's a single condition, if this user's document photo URL is not set. Confirm. Else, we will then still just see this background image, which will be caged, user's document, photo URL. Perfect. And then we only still require a column in here. And this column can expand all the way. We can start it on the left. And we think I had no need for some spacing there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in text. Duplicate that. Right. I'm going to give some space here. So item spacing of 10. And then for the first one, we'll set this to be primary text, that's fine. And this will be our user's display name. So user's document, display name. And then finally for this value, we'll set this to be the user's document, phone number. Right? There we go. Okay. I think we are now done with that part. We'll still come and add the functionality for searching users and displaying that. But for this is fine. All right. We can now continue on to perhaps add the value so that we can see our user. So this will be like a little profile pop-up that we see when we click on the user, right? So we can create a new component. Let me take this component and put it in there. Let's add a new component, create blank component, and we can call this view contact component. There we go. Now I'm going to expand this all the way, and then we can add our first value will be a column. Right? This column will allow a line in the center and also in the center. We can then add in a container that we will keep as a block. That's fine. I am though going to change some values here. The first value will be the primary background, or the full color will be a primary background. No need for border color. I do want to set an elevation of 5. And then finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a box shadow. This box shadow is going to be set to the primary, or no, let's make that the secondary background color, and no need for any spread. Perfect. Right. Also, I am going to put the width at 250 and the height at 300. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to add in a stack in here. Now, inside of the stack, I am going to add in actually, it's no need for a stack. Well, not in here. Hold on. I first need to add in a column, and then inside of my column, I'll have a stack. Yeah. Stack and then a row. So a stack and then a row. Now the stack can be expanded all the way and the row will be at the bottom. That's perfect. All right. Now to build out our stack. Oops, there we go. Our stack is going to have firstly a container. That we can expand all the way, or infinite height and infinite width. So it takes up the full value. I am going to set a full color to it, which is this weird type of green color. There we go. Like almost like a type of green teal. There we go. And then I want to add in the icon in here. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to say icon. Right? Like this. And this icon is going to be about 150. And again, it's going to be person. Like this. And I can keep it as secondary text. I am then going to set another container. So I'm just going to duplicate this. Going to remove this value here. And then add background image cached, and this will be to a user reference. So let's go in here. I'm going to add a parameter here, which will be document reference user, or just user reference. Let's just make it shorter. So let's say user reference. It's going to be document reference users, and it will be required. So now on top of our column, we can do a query, which is document from reference users from this user reference. We're going to confirm it. We can come back to our little container here, and well, this one here, and it will only be visible, so a single condition, if user's document photo URL is set. Right? Our image will be the user's document photo URL. And then finally, we're going to add in, no, I'm lying to you. There's still two pieces inside of the stack, yeah. So we're going to add in a container. We're going to remove the height, and then we're going to add in a row. Oops. And this row is going to have a column in case the name is very long, right? And it's going to have then the text value like this. No need for the height, so why? Okay, hold on. That's fine. It's at the right place. Let's see quickly. Yeah. I am going to give a full color here to this container. It's going to be that. So let's see. Infinite and infinite. I'm going to first delete this because something is happening there that shouldn't be happening. Okay, this full color I can remove, or I think I just added the full color to the wrong one. Probably. There we go. All right. So let's say that's transparent, right? Let's grab my full color that I want. Go back to my stack. I'm going to add in a container. It's going to be width. There we go. All right. add that color scheme to it, and then add in row. This row is gonna have an all around padding of 5, then a column which we can close up, and then have a text value. And this text value is gonna be tertiary. It can remain 14. I am though gonna make it normal text, and then this is gonna have some if then values, or no, actually, yeah. So let's make if then values, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna allow the user to be able to send messages to themselves, similar to what WhatsApp does, right? So if you send a message to yourself, whatever, it allows it, and it just tells you, listen, me, you, type value, right? So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna say if then. So if users document, users record reference. Sorry, it needs to be single condition. So if users document or users reference is equals to our authenticated user record reference, then return me, you, right? Else we want to return our users document display name, just like that, and confirm. There we go. Right, now we are also going to have a little container which will be for when we are initiating a call. So if we are calling this individual, then we need to be able to see that, right? This is before we move maybe to our initiating call, so before we go to our actual call screen, because the user, accepted the call or whatever the case may be, right? So it's just sort of creating a delay until we can actually navigate to the space where the user then takes the call. Sorry. Let me do this, right? This text is just going to have some padding all around of, let's say, 10. Like this. Let's come back to this container because I want to set some border radius, and we can say 25, right? And this will be tertiary. It will be extra bold, or let's say like a black, and the font size will be 20, and it will say calling ... There we go. All right, now finally for our bottom value here, we are gonna have a stack first of all, because this stack is gonna have a few icon buttons in it, and it will all depend on whether a chat exists or not. So I can now say icon button like this, and let's create this icon button. I'm gonna say the bold color needs to be nothing, border color nothing. It's gonna have a chat fold like that one. Icon color will be tertiary. That looks good, yeah. All right, the row itself, right, is gonna have an all around padding of 10. There we go. And we can maybe do this so it's all equally spaced out, and then I'm going to duplicate this button, duplicate and duplicate. I'm also going to copy it and then just paste it inside of the row, right? Duplicate and duplicate. Okay, So for this button, the other one, this will be call, right? So like this, call. This guy over here will be video. Now I won't be implementing video call inside of this application, although if you are interested in having the video call custom widget and those sort of things for Agora, you're more than welcome to purchase it. Although the basic voice calling code that I will make available for you during this tutorial will be for free, but you can also purchase the more advanced video or voice call screen that will come with things such as muting the mic, switching to the video call screen, those type of things. The video call screen that I will provide you currently will only contain end call button. All right, let's go to video. I believe that's the one. Oh no, this was information. My apologies. Information. There we go. All right. Now that we have all of this, we are almost ready to bring this up. I do want to say that this icon button, right? We want to then navigate to our public profile. So I'm gonna open. So first of all, we need to do a conditional check. So add conditional, and we're gonna check whether this user reference. Oops, sorry. We need to say single condition. User reference is equals to the authenticated user record reference, right? If that is true, so if it is true, then we want to navigate to our auth profile. So allow back navigation. No. Well, actually, I might just in any case not even allow that. So you can only message yourself, but let's not do that. That's fine. And I'm going to say instant navigation. And for the other one, we'll navigate to our public profile. We'll allow back navigation and also make this one instant. And then we can dismiss custom dialog. Now it will most likely give you an error to say that we are not calling this dialog anyway. That's fine. We will be calling it soon. Finally, you also need to set a value on this entire column, right? Now, before I do that, I want to wrap this widget in a container that I then will expand fully. And I'm actually going to add that value on this container, which will be, again, what? Dismiss custom dialog. There we go. Now we can go back to our contacts page and we can click on our container for our profile like that. And we can say add an action. And we're going to say custom dialog, right? We can then select our view contact custom dialog and pass in our user's document, user record reference, like that, and confirm. Now I am going to go onto my list view. There's something that I need to remove here, and that was this exclude current user. I do want to say that this display name though is now going to have an if and then statement, right? And this if then statement is going to be a single condition of user's document reference is equals to authenticated user record reference. Confirm. Then we're going to say me, you, else will display our user's document display name and confirm. Perfect. Now that we have that done, we can click on our view contact, right? This one here will initiate a video call, but I'm not going to connect that. We can though so long start with adding actions for our start call, although I'm not going to do that. I do just want to set some conditional visibilities here. For the score screen, you shouldn't be able to call yourself or initiate a call. So I'm going to set a single condition, and that would be user record reference is equals to authenticated user record reference, and apply opposite statement. So not equal, confirm. Right, so this should only be visible if I am not the authenticated user record reference. And I'm going to paste the same variable here and save it. Perfect. This one will only be visible if we start to call. So I'm going to set a page state here, calling user, which will be of type Boolean. Default value will be false. So this container will be only visible if component state calling user is set to true. Great stuff. Okay, we can go to our chat homepage and we can click on our floating action button and add an action, which is navigate to our contacts page, right? And we'll allow back navigation, and we'll maybe do a nice little slide up of 250. Great stuff. Let's quickly test this out. We'll come to do our public profile and auth profile once we get to the part where we are editing out our profile values. All right, I don't want to get this video to be too long, and we've now already knocked, let's see, we are already on 1 hour and 25 minutes. So let's end here. When it comes to what we've done to the UI, we'll create the rest of the UI and the other parts when we handle our create chats and also create call. Well, there we go, everybody. So we now finally have loaded this application, and as we can see, we have our navbar here. Everything is looking great. I do think we need some padding around this here. We'll come and add that. We can now also see that if we click on our contacts, it comes up, and there we go. I currently only have one account in here. That will be my own account, so it will say me, you. If I click view, we can now see we have this little custom dialog profile coming up here, and then we have me, you, and we can click on information. Now this should have taken us to our auth profile. So if we look here, we can see that it went to our auth profile since we are the authenticated user. Now, should we have been a different person, then we would have gone to the public profile. So let's quickly test that out. I'm going to quickly go in here, and then let's say we're going to add in here in the center, we're going to add some text, put in the center, and say public profile. And for the auth profile, we'll go in the center, text, center, and here we can say auth profile, right? And let's just also add a logout button in here, because we would like to be able to create other accounts here. So I'm just going to create a button that says logout, and then an action of logout. So there we go, logout. Perfect. We can now quickly test this, and then we can create another account so that we can see if we can see all the users and if everything is displaying as it should. All right, and there we go. Our app has loaded. I'm going to click here. There we go. I can see me, you. If I click on information, then there we go. We've navigated to the auth profile. I'm going to log out, right? And I'm going to check here. Let me grab this number here. Go to my test mode, continue. I'm going to paste this number, get the OTP. Let's say do that. Right. Click on gallery. I can grab this image here, open it. Now I have the image cropper here set currently, so I'm just gonna crop my image out. There we go. Gonna crop 100% about, let's say this would be ghost coding. I am the ultimate programmer, right? Very egotistical, I know. I didn't know what else to write, but there we go. And we've saved. Now if we go to our contacts page, we can now see the Joker, which is the other user, and then also ourself. If we click on me, you, so ourself, then we have our image here as well as our information. If I close that out and I click on the Joker, now that is somebody else's profile. So there we can now see our items. If I click on information, then there we go. We navigated to the public profile since we are not the authenticated user. All right, so all of that functions correctly and we can now start working on our profiles and all of these settings. So the public profile as well as the auth profile, that will start to form part of the settings formation. For part 3 of this tutorial, we'll start building out our chat screen and handling messages, creating a chat, and so on. We might not deep dive. We'll start with just adding the basic functionality for it and sending those messages. For the actual call screen, we'll handle that in part 4 of this tutorial.